My parents sneered she deserves it more after gifting my restored truck to my sister. So I pressed charges. My name is Liam, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the quiet one, the one who fades into the background, especially when my younger sister, Chloe, is around. I'm a carpenter by trade, or at least that's what I'm pouring my heart and soul into becoming full-time. There's an honesty to wood, a satisfaction in shaping something raw and imperfect into something beautiful and strong with your own two hands. It's a feeling I've chased since I was a kid, tinkering away in the garage while the rest of the family orbited Chloe. Chloe, my sister. She's 2 years younger than me, currently navigating her early 20s with the kind of breezy confidence that only comes when the world has consistently bent to your will. She's the golden child, always has been. If I was the shadow, she was the sunbeam my parents, Mark and Susan, basked in. Growing up, it was a masterclass in subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, favoritism. I remember one year, I must have been about 12, I spent weeks in the school's woodshop, agonizing over every joint, every angle, to build this intricate dovetailed jewelry box for Mom for Mother's Day. I was so proud of it. Mom smiled when I gave it to her, said, "Oh, that's sturdy, Liam. Thank you." And then it vanished into a cupboard, never to be seen again. Later that day, Chloe presented a lopsided, glitter-glue-encrusted clay thing she'd made in our class. Dad picked it up like it was a Fabergé egg. "Susan, look at this. The creativity. She's a natural artist." That masterpiece sat on the mantelpiece for years, a dusty monument to their blatant preference. It wasn't just about handmade gifts. Chloe wanted ballet lessons? Done. Chloe needed a new laptop because her old one was too slow for her social media browse. Instantly provided. Chloe got a C in math? Oh, the teacher just doesn't understand her learning style. She's more of a creative type. Meanwhile, I worked a paper route from the age of 13 to save up for my first set of decent chisels. And if I got anything less than a B, it was, "Are you even trying, Liam? You need to focus." The message was clear. Chloe was destined for sparkle and ease. And I was just Liam, the practical, anodyne son. The only person who ever really saw me, who understood that quiet hum of creation under my skin, was my grandpa Marcus. Dad's father. He was a retired master carpenter himself, with a bit of welder thrown in for good measure. A man whose hand were maps of hard work and skill. His workshop was my sanctuary. While my parents were ferrying Chloe to auditions for school plays she'd barely rehearsed for, or to shopping sprees for outfits she'd wear once, I'd be with Grandpa Marcus. He taught me how to read the grain of a piece of timber, the satisfying hiss of a sharp plane, the sturdy integrity of a well-made joint. "Your father," he'd say, wiping sawdust from his brow, his voice a low rumble. He never had the patience for this, Liam. Always chasing the next get-rich-quick scheme. But you've got the touch, boy. The patience of a saint and the eye of a hawk. A couple of years ago, when I was about 28, Grandpa Marcus's health started to get a bit shaky. Arthritis was creeping into those skilled hands, making the fine work he loved a struggle. One Saturday, he called me over. "Got something for you, son," he said, his voice a little thinner than usual. I figured it was an old tool, maybe a specialist plane I'd been admiring. Instead, parked in his side yard, under a faded blue tarp, was the hulking silhouette of a truck. He pulled back the tarp with a flourish. It was a 1970 Chevrolet C10 stepside. A rust bucket, to be honest. The paint was more patina than color. There were holes in the fenders you could stick a fist through, and the interior looked like a family of raccoons had hosted a decade-long party in it. But beneath the decay, I saw it. The solid lines, the honest American steel, the potential. "She ain't pretty now," Grandpa Marcus chuckled, patting a rusty fender, "but she's got good bones." Solid as the day, she rolled off the line. "Your father never appreciated a good truck. Said it was just for hauling junk." He handed me a set of keys. "I've been saving her for you. Figure when you were ready to really strike out on your own with that furniture business you keep dreaming about, you'd need something proper. A workhorse with a bit of soul. You'll bring her back to life, Liam, and she'll be the backbone of that business." I was speechless. It wasn't just a truck, it was a vote of confidence, a legacy. It was the key to the future I was meticulously planning, where I could be my own boss, creating things of value, transported in a vehicle I'd resurrected myself. When I managed to tow it back to my parents' place, I was still living at home, trying to save every penny for my business launch. The reaction was predictable. Dad glanced up from his newspaper. "Another one of your greasy projects, Liam? Just try to keep the oil stains off the driveway this time." Mom just sighed. "Honestly, Liam, when are you going to get a sensible hobby? Or better yet, a second job that pays more?" Chloe didn't even look up from her phone, probably scrolling through TikTok until she wrinkled her nose. "Oh, what is that thing? It's an eyesore. Can't you, hide it somewhere?" I just smiled. They didn't get it. They never did. But I did. And Grandpa Marcus did. This wasn't just an old truck. This was my dream, waiting to be awakened. The next year and a half became a blur of grease, sweat, and unwavering focus. Every evening after my day job at a soulless cabinet-making factory, every weekend, every spare moment was dedicated to that C10. My social life dwindled to Maria, my girlfriend, bringing me takeout containers of food to the garage, her presence a quiet comfort amidst the clang of tools and the smell of solvent. She never complained about my obsession. Instead, she'd watch with a fascinated smile, sometimes handing me a wrench or helping me clean small parts. Her belief in me as solid as the truck's frame I was so painstakingly repairing. I gutted it down to the bare metal. Learned to weld properly, not just tacking things together, but laying down strong, clean beads to patch the rusted-out floor pans and cab corners. I spent hours, days, weeks on my back on a creeper, grinding away rust, every spark a tiny testament to my dedication. My hands were perpetually stained, my knuckles scraped raw, my fingernails black with grime that no amount of scrubbing could fully remove. My small bedroom became a library of Chilton manuals, wiring diagrams printed from obscure online forums, and catalogs of classic truck parts. I'd fall asleep thinking about torque specifications and wake up planning the next stage of the bodywork. The financial toll was immense. Every paycheck, after setting aside my modest savings for the business launch and a pittance for rent to my parents, went straight into that truck. New engine components, brake lines, suspension parts, weather stripping, chrome trim. I scoured junkyards for usable pieces, haunted swap meets at dawn, and became intimately familiar with every classic truck parts website on the internet. There was one particularly brutal month where the transmission needed a full rebuild. I remember eating instant noodles for dinner for 3 weeks straight to afford it, but the satisfaction of slotting that rebuilt gearbox back into place, knowing I'd done it right, was worth more than any fancy meal. Maria brought over a homemade lasagna the day I finished it, a small celebration for a milestone only we truly understood. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to transform. I rebuilt the 350 V8 engine myself, piece by piece, until it rumbled with a deep, satisfying growl that vibrated right through my chest. The bodywork took forever, smoothing out decades of dents and dings, prepping it for paint. I chose a deep sapphire blue, a color that reminded me of the evening sky just after sunset. A local shop owner, an old friend of Grandpa Marcus, let me use his paint booth after hours in exchange for helping him out on a few projects. And the truck bed, that was my personal signature. I crafted it from reclaimed oak, finishing it with so many coats of varnish it looked like polished glass, a subtle showcase of the carpentry skills that were my true passion. The day I finally drove her out of the garage, fully restored, gleaming under the California sun, was one of the proudest moments of my life. The sapphire blue paint job was flawless, the chrome sparkled, and that custom oak bed was a work of art. She wasn't just a truck anymore. She was a rolling testament to what hard work and dedication could achieve. She was my future, my mobile workshop, my delivery vehicle, the symbol of Liam's custom carpentry. And that's when Chloe started to notice. The first time she saw it, truly saw it in its finished glory, her jaw literally dropped. "Whoa, Liam," she stammered, her eyes wide, phone momentarily forgotten. That old thing actually looks amazing. Like seriously vintage cool." For the first time, I saw a flicker of something other than dismissive indifference in her eyes. Maybe even envy? It started innocently enough. Can I just take a picture with it for my Insta, Liam? The aesthetic is like perfect. I was so taken aback by any positive attention from her regarding my work that I agreed, albeit reluctantly, supervising closely. The photos, of course, got tons of likes, her followers gushing about her amazing truck. Then the requests escalated. My friend, Tiffany, the one with that massive fashion blog, she's having an influencer meetup, and if I rolled up in this, it would be so epic. Can I borrow it? Just for one evening. No, Chloe, I said firmly but politely. I'm sorry, but no. This isn't just a toy. It's vital for my business, which I'm launching next month. Plus, you know your track record with cars. She'd managed to dent or scrape every vehicle our parents had ever bought her. Her face fell, replaced by that familiar petulant pout. You're so selfish. It's just sitting there most of the time anyway. That's when Mom and Dad started chiming in. Liam, don't be so difficult, Mom would say, her voice laced with that familiar tone of disappointment usually reserved for my lack of ambition in her eyes. Chloe is trying to build her brand. A unique truck like that could really open doors for her. You're not even officially using it for your little business yet. She's your sister, Liam, Dad would add, puffing out his chest as if delivering some profound wisdom. Family helps family. It's just a truck. If she dings it, you're good with your hands, you can fix it. The sheer audacity of that statement, implying that my time and skill were endlessly at their disposal to clean up Chloe's messes, made my blood simmer. Aunt Carol, Mom's sister and Chloe's biggest cheerleader, made sure to add her 2 cents during a family dinner. Oh, that enormous, masculine truck, just for little you, Liam, she cooed, patting Chloe's hand. Our Chloe would look absolutely darling driving it, and it would get her so much positive attention. Think of the followers. Each time I stood my ground, I explained, patiently at first, then with growing exasperation, that the C10 was not a prop for Chloe's fleeting social media fame. It was the cornerstone of my livelihood, the result of nearly 2 years of sacrifice and relentless work. I was weeks away from quitting my factory job, from taking the terrifying, exhilarating leap into self-employment. The truck was my workshop on wheels, my delivery vehicle, my billboard. The tension in the house grew thicker with every refusal. They just didn't get it, or rather, they didn't want to. Chloe's desires, as always, were paramount. A few weeks later, my parents announced they were throwing a party. Just a little get-together, Mom chirped a little too brightly, to celebrate some good news. Everyone, including me, naturally assumed it was about Chloe. She'd recently hit some arbitrary milestone on Instagram. 50,000 followers, I think, or landed a minor collaboration with a fast fashion brand that probably paid her in free crop tops. For Chloe, even breathing seemed to be an occasion for parental celebration. I almost didn't go. The atmosphere at home had been so strained, but Maria convinced me. Just show your face, be polite. It's easier than dealing with the drama if you don't, she'd said. Wise words, as usual. The party was typical, a collection of their friends, a few distant relatives, and Aunt Carol holding court, loudly praising Chloe's meteoric rise in the digital space. Chloe herself flitted about, phone in hand, documenting everything for her story. I mostly lurked by the snack table, making small talk with Maria and trying to remain invisible. Then Dad, Mark, tapped a glass for attention. He beamed, a proud, proprietary smile plastered on his face. Friends, family, he began, his voice booming slightly. As you know, our Chloe is really making waves. Her influencer career is taking off, and she's on the cusp of some truly big things. He paused for dramatic effect, his gaze sweeping the room before landing squarely, uncomfortably, on me. And to help her reach those new heights, to give her the reliable, eye-catching transport her burgeoning brand deserves. My stomach clenched. I knew, with a sickening certainty, what was coming. Liam, being the wonderfully supportive brother he is, has agreed to let Chloe take over the use of his fantastic classic C10. We've even taken care of all the pesky paperwork to transfer it into her name to make it easier for her business expenses. The air went out of my lungs. Paperwork? Transfer it? My truck? He said it so casually, as if he were announcing Chloe had borrowed a damn sweater. The assembled guests oohed and awed, turning to me with expectant smiles. I felt Maria's hand tighten on my arm. For a split second, I was frozen, the years of being overlooked, of my efforts being minimized, crashing down on me. Then a cold, hard anger rose up. "No," I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs. It wasn't loud, but it was clear and absolute. "No, I absolutely have not agreed to that. That truck is mine. It is the foundation of my new business, which I am starting in 2 weeks. It is not happening." You could have heard a pin drop. Dad's smile froze, then curdled into an angry flush. Mom looked horrified, her hand flying to her mouth. Chloe's eyes welled up with tears of instant indignation, a look she'd perfected since toddlerhood to get her way. Aunt Carol gasped so dramatically she nearly choked on her mini quiche. "Well, we'll discuss this later, Liam," Dad stammered, trying to recover, his voice tight with fury. "There is nothing to discuss, Dad," I replied, standing straighter. "It's my truck. I restored it. I own it. End of story. Don't you dare be so selfish, Liam." Mom hissed, her earlier cheerfulness replaced by a venomous glare. "This is an incredible opportunity for your sister. You're hardly even using that old thing. Then you buy her a car." I shot back, my own anger finally boiling over. "Like you bought her everything else she ever wanted. This one is mine, and no one is taking it." Before anyone could respond, I turned and walked out, Maria right beside me, her expression a mixture of shock and fierce pride. The fallout was immediate and icy. My parents alternated between stony silence and furious whispers behind my back. Chloe wouldn't even look at me. It was a miserable existence. About a week into this new Cold War, I got a call from my aunt on Grandpa Marcus's side. His health had taken a sharp nosedive. He'd had a bad fall, and on top of his worsening arthritis, doctors had found some other underlying issues they were concerned about. He needed someone with him, more consistently than my aunt could manage with her own job and kids. Despite the radioactive atmosphere at home, there was no question in my mind. I told my parents I was going to Grandpa Marcus's place, about a 4-hour drive away, for a few weeks to help out. Mom just nodded curtly. Dad grunted something about me running away from responsibility, which was rich considering the circumstances. I packed a bag, asked Maria if she could keep an eye on my workshop in the garage, and, most importantly, the C10. "Of course," she said, hugging me tight. "You go take care of your grandpa. Everything here will be fine." Famous last words. I spent the next 3 weeks devoted to Grandpa Marcus, helping him with his physical therapy, making sure he ate, listening to his stories, just being there. His body was failing him, but his mind was still sharp, his spirit still resilient. He asked about the C10, of course. I showed him photos on my phone of its gleaming, finished state. His eyes lit up. "Attaboy, Liam," he rasped, a proud smile creasing his weathered face. "Knew you had it in ya. She's a beauty. Your business will thrive with a rig like that." Little did I know what was happening back home. While I was changing dressings and coaxing my grandfather to eat, my mother, Susan, with Chloe no doubt providing eager support, was enacting a plan of breathtaking betrayal. Mom, it turned out, had a friend from her old book club, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, who now worked a mid-level clerical job at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Susan had spun Sarah some sob story about needing to get the truck title sorted out for family reasons, while I was unavailable. She'd managed to get duplicate title application forms, claiming the original was lost. Then, with a pen and a steady hand, my own mother forged my signature on the transfer documents, signing my life's work, my future, over to her precious Chloe. Sarah Jenkins, either through gross incompetence or for a small token of appreciation slipped to her by my mother, fast-tracked the paperwork, conveniently overlooking the fact that I, the registered owner, was not present. She even, as we later discovered, backdated the official stamp by a few days to make it appear as if the transfer had happened before I left for Grandpa Marcus's. When Grandpa Marcus was finally more stable and his home care situation was properly arranged, I headed back, exhausted but relieved he was on the mend. I pulled into our driveway late one evening. The first thing I noticed was the gaping empty space where the C10 should have been. My heart plummeted. Maria met me at the door, her face pale, eyes filled with distress. Liam, I don't know what to say. Your parents, they came last week. They had official-looking papers. They said the truck was Chloe's now. They just took it. A cold dread, quickly followed by a white-hot rage, washed over me. I stormed into the house, Maria trailing anxiously behind me. My parents were in the living room, watching television as if nothing was amiss. Chloe was sprawled on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, a smug little smile playing on her lips. "Where's my truck?" I demanded, my voice tight and shaking. Mom jumped, feigning surprise. "Oh, Liam, you're back. How's your dear grandfather? We were so worried." "Don't change the subject, Mom. Where is my C10?" Chloe finally looked up, her expression one of bored annoyance. "Oh, that? I have it. It's fine. I needed it for a brand shoot today. It was like super important." "You needed it?" I repeated, incredulous. "After I told all of you, repeatedly, that it was off limits? Maria said you had papers." "What papers?" Dad stood up then, adopting his most authoritative, condescending tone, the one he used when he thought he was laying down the law. "Now listen, Liam. It's all been sorted out. The truck is legally Chloe's now. It makes more sense for her to have it for her career at this stage. It's registered in her name, insured under her name. It's done." The words hit me like a physical blow. Legally Chloe's? How in the hell could it be legally Chloe's? You can't just transfer a vehicle title without the owner's signature. My signature. My parents exchanged a fleeting, almost imperceptible glance. It was a look I knew well, the silent, collusive communication that always preceded them closing ranks to protect Chloe or justify their actions. "Well," Mom began, fiddling with a button on her cardigan, her gaze evasive. "We are your parents, Liam. We know what's best for this family. And frankly, that old, gas-guzzling truck is far more suited to Chloe's vibrant, youthful image than it is to your dusty woodworking." The implication, the sheer unadulterated gall of it, stole my breath for a second. You forged my signature, didn't you?" The accusation hung heavy in the air. Dad scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Liam. It's a family matter, a simple administrative change. We were just ensuring family assets are utilized efficiently." "Family assets?" I nearly roared. "That truck was my asset, bought with my labor, my sweat, my money. You stole it." I pulled out my phone, my fingers already dialing. "Who are you calling?" Mom asked, a flicker of nervousness finally appearing in her eyes. "The police." Dad lunged towards me, his face purpling with rage. "Don't you dare. You'll destroy this family. You'll ruin Chloe's prospects." I sidestepped his clumsy attempt to grab my phone. "You already destroyed this family," I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the inferno raging inside me. "You destroyed it every time you chose her over me, every time you dismissed my dreams, every time you made me feel invisible. And now you've committed a felony." I turned and walked out of the house, ignoring their sputtered threats and Chloe's sudden wail of, "Daddy, make him stop." I went straight to Maria's. She was horrified, but her resolve was like steel. "We fight this, Liam," she said, her hand gripping mine. "We fight this with everything we've got." Her father, Mr. Davies, a man I'd always respected for his quiet, observant nature, had retired a few years back from a long career as a police detective. He happened to be visiting. He listened to the entire sordid tale without interruption, his expression growing grimmer with each detail. When I finished, he leaned back, his gaze sharp. "Liam," he said, his voice calm, but carrying an undeniable weight, "what your parents and sister have done involves several serious crimes. Grand theft auto. That truck is well over the felony value threshold. Forgery of a legal document. That's another felony. Conspiracy to commit these acts. If this DMV contact your mother used was complicit, that's another avenue. These aren't minor infractions. If you pursue this, and you have every right to, it will get very, very ugly for them. They could face jail time. Are you prepared for that?" I looked at Maria, who nodded encouragingly. I thought of Grandpa Marcus, his pride in my work. I thought of the years of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home. Yes, Mr. Davies, I said, my voice firm. I am. They need to face the consequences of their actions. For once. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity, orchestrated by Mr. Davies's calm expertise. First, the DMV. We requested official copies of all title transfer documents for the C-10. There was my name forged on the signature line. It was a passable imitation, but under scrutiny, especially compared to my actual signature on my driver's license, the differences were noticeable. The date of transfer was, as I suspected, while I was 4 hours away caring for Grandpa Marcus. Next, establishing my alibi. This was easier. I had ATM withdrawal receipts from my grandfather's town, dated the same day as the purported signature. I had pharmacy receipts for his medications, also time-stamped. I had text messages to Maria with location data enabled, detailing Grandpa's condition, sent daily while I was away. Photos of me with him, also time-stamped by my phone's camera. Then Mr. Davies, using some of his old, discreet contacts, began to sniff around the DMV. It didn't take long for the name Sarah Jenkins to surface, along with whispers of her sometimes expediting paperwork for friends. This was crucial, as it showed a level of premeditation and potential corruption beyond a simple opportunistic forgery. The final, infuriating piece of evidence came, ironically, from Chloe herself. Maria, scrolling through Instagram with a grimace, suddenly gasped, "Liam, look at this." She showed me her phone. It was Chloe's latest post. A series of professionally shot photos and a short video of her posing with my C-10 at some trendy downtown mural. Hashtag vintage vibes, hashtag boss babe, hashtag my new ride. And there, clear as day in one of the high-resolution photos, was a fresh, ugly scratch down the passenger side door and a small, circular dent near the wheel well that definitely hadn't been there when I last saw it. She was not only flaunting my stolen property, but had already damaged it through her carelessness. The caption read, "Obsessed with my new classic wheels. Perfect for hauling my dreams and all my shopping bags, LOL." Mr. Davies looked at the post, a grim smile touching his lips. "Well, Miss Chloe has just confirmed knowing possession of stolen property and helpfully provided photographic evidence of its current condition. She's not as smart as she thinks she is." Armed with a mountain of evidence, the forged documents, my cast-iron alibi, the information about Sarah Jenkins, Chloe's brazen social media posts showcasing the stolen and damaged truck, and my detailed receipts for the restoration proving its significant value, we walked into the police station. I filed a formal report for grand theft auto, forgery, and conspiracy. As I signed the official complaint, I felt a strange sense of calm. The die was cast. There was no going back. The wheels of justice, as they say, can grind slowly, but in this case, with Mr. Davies providing a well-organized file of evidence to the detectives, they began to turn with surprising speed. The police were professional and took the matter seriously, especially given the clear forgery and the value of the C-10. Their first stop was the DMV. Sarah Jenkins, confronted with evidence of her irregular handling of the title transfer and the backdating, cracked under questioning. Apparently, my mother had not only appealed to her sympathies with a sob story, but had also given her a generous gift card for her troubles. Sarah quickly agreed to cooperate in exchange for a potentially lighter sentence, implicating my mother fully in the forgery and the deceptive process. Next, equipped with Sarah's statement and a warrant, the police paid a visit to my parents' house. Chloe was home, apparently in the middle of filming another day in the life of an influencer segment. According to the arresting officer's later report, she was utterly bewildered when they informed her she was being arrested for possession of stolen property. "But it's my truck," she reportedly cried. "My mom gave it to me." Her protests did little to stop them from handcuffing her. The sight of their precious daughter being led away in a police car must have been quite the shock for Mark and Susan. My parents were arrested later that day. Dad at his mid-level accounting job, much to the shock of his colleagues, and Mom at her weekly bridge club, an even more scandalous interruption. They were charged with grand theft auto, forgery, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The local online news outlet even ran a small story. Local couple and daughter arrested in bizarre classic car theft scheme. No names were mentioned initially, but the salacious details were enough to set local gossips buzzing. The fallout within the extended family was predictably explosive. Aunt Carol, true to form, launched a social media tirade. Vague, tearful posts appeared on her Facebook page about a family tragically torn apart by greed and ingratitude, and how a heartless son is persecuting his loving, doting parents and innocent, sensitive sister over a rusty old truck. She painted me as a monster, a vindictive viper biting the hands that fed me. This time, however, I wasn't alone in the court of public opinion. Maria, with my weary permission, posted a calm, factual reply to Aunt Carol's most dramatic post. She didn't engage in name-calling. She simply stated that serious crimes had been committed, evidence had been presented to the authorities, and arrests had been made based on that evidence. She attached a link to the now-updated news story, which, thanks to some intrepid local journalism, included more details and confirmed the charges. Several of my old friends, who knew the long history of favoritism in my family, chimed in with supportive comments for me. Even Uncle Ben, Dad's usually timid younger brother, sent me a private message saying, "It's about time, Liam. What they did was wrong. Stay strong." Aunt Carol's narrative quickly unraveled, and she retreated into embarrassed silence when people started asking her pointed questions about the actual charges. The legal battle was shorter and less dramatic than I'd feared. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The forged signature, my irrefutable alibi, Sarah Jenkins's confession, Chloe's own social media post proudly displaying the stolen, damaged truck. It was an open and shut case. Their expensive lawyer tried to pressure me, through my own court-appointed victim's advocate, to be reasonable and drop the charges to save the family. They offered to compensate me generously for the truck if I just made it all go away. I instructed my advocate to tell them, in no uncertain terms, that the only thing I wanted was for justice to take its course. Compensation could be dealt with in a civil suit later. Criminal accountability was paramount. In the end, facing a mountain of evidence, they all took plea bargains to avoid a public trial. Chloe was convicted of felony possession of stolen property. She received 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service, which I heard she complained about endlessly, and a hefty fine. Her fledgling influencer career evaporated overnight. Brands didn't want to be associated with a convicted felon, no matter how aesthetically pleasing her Instagram grid was. My mother, Susan, as the primary forger and the one who suborned a public official, got hit harder. She was convicted of felony forgery and conspiracy. She received 5 years probation, a year of house arrest with an ankle monitor, which apparently cramped her social style immensely, substantial fines, and had to serve 60 days in county jail. My father, Mark, was convicted of conspiracy and being an accessory after the fact to Grand Theft Auto. He got 5 years probation, significant fines, and 30 days in county jail, which he had to serve on consecutive weekends, disrupting his golf game. He also lost his accounting job. Firms tend to frown on employing convicted criminals, especially those involved in fraud. Sarah Jenkins, the DMV contact, lost her job and received 2 years probation for her role in falsifying public records. The C-10 was returned to me by court order. The insurance from my parents' homeowner policy, as part of a civil settlement we reached to avoid further protracted legal battles, covered the cost of repairing the scratch and dent Chloe had so carelessly inflicted. Standing in my own small, rented workshop, I'd moved out of my parents' house the day after the confrontation and never looked back. Running my hand over the smooth, newly repaired fender of the truck felt like closing a very painful chapter of my life. With the legal nightmare behind me, and a surprising amount of local interest generated by the classic car crusader story, as one slightly over-the-top blog post called me, I officially launched Liam's Custom Carpentry. The notoriety, ironically, gave me a bit of a boost. People were intrigued by the story, admired my resilience, and, most importantly, loved the quality of my work. Orders started coming in. Maria was by my side, helping with the administrative side of the business, her belief in me unwavering. Grandpa Marcus, though his health remained fragile, was immensely proud. "Told you, boy," he rasped, his eyes twinkling when I showed him the first set of invoices for my new business, the C10 parked proudly outside his window. Honest work and standing up for what's right. That's the Marcus way. I rarely speak to my parents or Chloe anymore. The last I heard, my parents had to sell their house to cover their legal fees, fines, and the civil settlement to me. They were living in a small, run-down apartment across town. Chloe was reportedly trying to rebrand herself as a resilience coach online, a venture that seemed to be failing spectacularly. Occasionally, a flying monkey relative would try to guilt-trip me about forgiving my family, but I just ignored them. Forgiveness is a complex thing, and while I didn't wish them active harm anymore, the trust, the love, the very foundation of what a family should be, had been irrevocably shattered by their actions. My life now is quiet, focused, and fulfilling. My business is growing steadily. The C10, my beautiful sapphire blue workhorse, is more than just a truck. It's a symbol of my independence, a testament to my resilience, and a constant reminder that sometimes you have to fight for your dreams, even if it's against the people who should have been your biggest supporters. And every time I turn the key and hear that V8 rumble to life, I can't help but smile. I built that. I saved that. And in doing so, I think I finally saved myself.